Let's call the January 8th, 2024 meeting of the Leitchfield Planning Commission to order. April, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Wes Whitmore.
Here.
Commissioner Missy Mudd.
Here.
Chair Mark Buckles.
Here.
Vice Chair Kendall Clemens.
Here.
Commissioner Tim Bocock.
Here.
Commissioner George Hack.
Here.
All right, 100%. Thank you. Also, let the record reflect council and staff are here, Dave Vickery and Heather Peters, as well as Tyler Harrell. All right, next on the agenda, this is for our first meeting for 2024 and the nomination of officers. Do I have a nomination for chair for 2024?
I'll make the nomination of Mark Buckles.
Okay,
I will second.
all right. Are there any other nominations? Do I have a motion to nomination cease?
Make a motion nomination cease.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Nominations for vice chair.
I'll make a motion, Tim Bocock.
Tim Bocock.
I second it.
Any other nominations for vice chair? I have a motion to cease nominations.
I'll make that motion.
Kendall makes that motion. All in favor of the nomination? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the nominations for secretary treasurer, I'll entertain those.
I make a motion that we appoint April again.
Have a nomination of April Bowman. Are there any other nominations? Do I have a motion to nomination cease?
I'll make that motion.
Wes makes that motion. All in favor of the nomination? Say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, there you go. All right, on your agenda, you have, the back of your agenda, you have the minutes from the December 11 meeting. You may be seeing those for the first time. If so, please give those a quick look and offer up any corrections. And then once we've had a moment to review those, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented or as amended.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Kendall makes a motion to accept the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Tim Bocock with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. If you are visiting with us this evening and you intend to participate in the public hearing, there are sign-up sheets on the back table on either of the public hearings, so please make sure that you sign in. And that brings us next on the agenda to our public hearing, the first of two public hearings. This will be a public hearing which is inside a public meeting. And hearings are only for the purposes of receiving evidence and taking testimony from the public. No action is taken inside the public hearing. Please sign in if you have not. There's a sign-up sheet in the rear of the room. The issue that we are adjudicating, if you plan to speak on that, you do need to sign up. A reminder, if you think you might have information to include as testimony, you must sign in ahead of time. The hearing is a judicial process that includes actual sworn testimony. We will begin by accepting testimony from the applicant, followed by anyone in support of the application. Then we will hear from anyone in opposition to the application. Following any opposition, the applicant may offer rebuttal to opposing testimony. All your comments and testimony are to be directed to the commission and the chair. Do not address anyone else in the meeting room other than commissioners, planning staff, or council. Your time for testimony may be limited based upon the number of people present to testify. Once all testimony is heard, the public hearing will be closed and public comment will no longer be accepted unless as the result of a direct question from the commission. Most often, the commission takes action the same day as a hearing, but under the provisions provided by KRS 100, we may delay action on a request depending upon the volume of evidence to consider. Do I have a motion to recess the public meeting and open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Wes Whitmore makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tim Bocock with a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, let's open the public hearing at 5:05. And this will be the first of two. RZ 23-124 will be first. April, would you read the abstract, please?
RZ-23-124, owner Rebecca Miller, executor. Applicant, same. Location, 0 Howard Avenue, Leitchfield, Kentucky, 42754. Request, change current zone A agricultural to R2 single-family medium density.
Okay, thank you, April. Do we have two sign-up sheets, Heather, or just one? One for each hearing?
Somebody started on the second one, so I just have to. It's just
Okay, if I can, all right. Thank you. Okay, if you are present to speak in regard to RZ 23124, would you raise your right hand? Yeah, either way, anyone who's going to offer testimony needs to raise their hand for the RZ 23124, which was just read. Okay, Dave, will you swear in?
Ms. Miller? No, that's not her. No. She's wanting to speak on this, but it's not Ms. Miller.
Okay. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief? Yes. Okay. You need to step up to the microphone, if you would, and tell them who you are and what your need to say.
All right, just before we get to that, though, is the applicant here?
The applicant wishes for the application to stand on its
Okay,
own.
the application is going to stand on its own. Is there anyone else, is there anyone here who's going to speak in favor of the application? Okay, anyone who's going to speak in opposition to the application? Would that be you? All right. What's your name?
Karen Harden.
All right, Karen, please go right ahead with your testimony.
Okay, my sister, she's sick and not able to make it. Her name's Patricia Montgomery. Her and her husband, Kevin Montgomery, owns the last house on Howard Avenue, right where the signs put where y'all said the zoning thing. And we was just wondering why it was being changed. And that's the only way we have to back in and out of our driveway is to use that backup spot. So we don't know if somebody's trying to put a road through or what's going on. We're just here for more information.
Okay. We'll get you some more information in just a moment. Okay. Is there anyone else that wants to speak against the application? Okay, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion to close the public hearing.
George makes a motion to close the public hearing. A second?
Second.
Missy Mudd with a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the public hearing closed at 5:10. All right, Tyler, would you give kind of a brief description of what's happening and then any recommendation that you may have?
All right, so the property in question is currently zoned agricultural. The request is to rezone the property to R2, single-family, medium density. This property doesn't have a physical address, but it's approximately 820 feet west of the intersection of Wallace Avenue and Howard Avenue. The owner is requesting because they want to sell a portion of the land, and whenever we were looking at this, the current land only has approximately 3.8 acres, and the agricultural zoning requires a minimum of 5 acres. So the property was improperly zoned at the adoption of planning and zoning, and therefore the requested zone is more appropriate. And there was nothing put forth that they were wanting to extend Howard Avenue or anything like that. They just want to divide this property and sell a portion to one of the neighbors.
Are there multiple ingress, egress points or opportunities to this property? Is there a singular?
Howard Avenue is the only entrance to this property as it stands, but if they sell that portion of the property, it will go along with another property that currently fronts on Sequoia Drive.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you. Gotcha, I understand. Before any amendment is granted, the Planning Commission must find that the map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan, or in absence of such finding, that one or more of the following may apply, and that's that the existing zoning classification given to the property is inappropriate, and that the proposed zoning classification is appropriate, or that there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature within the area involved which were not anticipated in the adopted comprehensive plan. KRS 100 limits our ability to approve amendments based upon any other criteria, and the testimony and evidence we received will have to offer one of those two findings of fact. Got a staff recommendation, discussion among the commissioners. Questions?
I'd like to address your question. I don't foresee it being a high-populated area. If they extend that street or even sell off that, this is my opinion, but I don't think it can link up to Hollow Drive, right? Below?
To Hollow Drive,
Yeah, I just looked down. Hollow Drive
No.
or Sequoia would be the only two. I guess Sequoia could link up to eventually. But,
the way it stands right now, Howard Avenue and what's that other one? Moon Avenue and Howard Avenue are the only places that this could be accessed from.
Those are all
I mean,
dead
Hollow
ends.
Drive, it stops down there close to it, but the topography of the land,
it drops way down.
Well,
yeah, it wouldn't be able to be accessed from Hollow Drive.
There was a reason that was never developed. It's hillside.
Yeah.
It drops, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
And,
I wouldn't think it's gonna change.
I see on Howard Avenue, where we live, we're right there at the end. And see, even the mail people
She
tell
needs to go on the microphone.
do our vehicles where they can't make that turnaround to do the mail.
Mhm.
So we just wanted to know if they would be taking the road on past us or what.
So, yeah, it's important to remind when we get in these situations, we know what is likely practical because of the topography, but we are assigning a zone to something that says this can happen regardless of what current plans may be or what anyone currently chooses to do. That designation is on that property until it's changed again for some reason, so. Is there any other deliberation or questions?
Tyler, do you have an idea how much frontage there that there is on Howard Avenue that they got to go in?
Right there, and then there's woods. We have a driveway where we go down, and the only way to get out of our driveway is to back up.
But you're actually backing out on the street there of Howard, aren't you?
At the end, yeah.
I would say, in my opinion, she'd be able to do the same thing.
Just like all the other neighbors?
Yeah, just
there.
like the other
Back out.
neighborhoods, Thomas and Moon, they back out into the street and then turn out. I don't think that'll change anything.
Yep.
Because, you know, we wouldn't have no way in and out.
Right.
Either way, Howard, they can't build anything there because that's a dedicated right-of-way that runs through that property. So even if they did decide to do something down the road and extend Howard Avenue, you'd still be able to access your driveway from Howard Avenue. They can't shut anything down there.
All right, so you have a necessary findings worksheet in your packet that you can make notes on, and I will entertain a motion when someone is ready, one way or another, to either approve or deny the request.
Mark, I will make a motion that the existing zoning classification giving to the property is inappropriate and that the proposed zoning classification is appropriate upon Tyler's recommendation.
Tim
Second
Bocock,
that motion.
George Hack with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this is now a recommendation that will be made to the Litchfield City Council. It'll be up to them to ratify our recommendation, and that will happen at their next meeting, which is Monday. So thank you, everyone. Tuesday, yeah, that's the holidays, Monday, isn't it, Clayton? Thank you. Okay. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing for our next map amendment request?
I'll make that motion.
Wes Whitmore with the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Missy with the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, just a reminder that this is a public hearing inside a public meeting, and hearings are only for the purposes of receiving evidence and taking testimony from the public. No action is taken inside the public hearing. So we have the sign-up sheets. Anyone who plans to speak for or against the,
Before you get to that.
Yeah.
April asked to be excused from this and not, she actually technically doesn't have a conflict. She's talked to me about it, but she doesn't feel appropriate, she doesn't feel comfortable because she works for Walbug. for that reason, she feels that she probably shouldn't sit on this
Is that true?
particular.
Yes.
All right, April's going to recuse herself because of the appearance of a potential conflict, which there's not. Thank you, Dave. Okay. The abstract for, did I get a Missy second? Did we vote to go into the public hearing? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, the abstract is RZ 23-125. The owner is Clayton Watkins Construction Incorporated. The applicant is Clayton Watkins Construction Incorporated and Lark LLC. The location is 306 Marion Street, Litchfield, 42754. The request is to change the current zone from B1 Neighborhood Business and C1 Highway Commercial to EX1, which is exclusive use. Now, if you plan to speak for or against the application, please raise your right hand. All right, Dave, will you do the swearing in?
Would all of you please stand that are going to want to testify today? Okay. Ray, all of you raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony, the evidence you give here today will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Gary, I assume you're representing the applicant, so please come forward to the podium. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Gary Watkins. I'm president of Clayton Watkins Construction, the applicant. I'm also the manager of Lark LLC, which is an entity that is owned by nonprofit local Parkland Manor Incorporated. In my course of my career in property development, we've been involved in the development of 5 long-term addiction recovery centers. And when I have seen the work that they have done and what they've accomplished, I have been for probably the last 12 years. I've been seeking out resources that we might bring such a facility to Leitchfield. And we have just at this recently have been able to put all the pieces together, and the last hurdle to be crossed, to be able to see that become a reality for the city of Litchfield is before you this evening. Our plans are to build a 28,000 square foot long-term residential recovery building with 2 wings. On one side would be for women, on the other side would be for men, and it'll have common area in between. And also a second building, and the first building I referred to would have the capacity to serve up to 64 individuals. The second building would be permanent housing for those who graduate and exit the recovery program. That would be actually across the street there on Marion Street, again for those graduating from the program. We are seeking special use zoning for that property. There is nothing in the regulations and the ordinances for the zoning that addresses this specifically. There are elements of this that are chiefly residential. People who will be there from 6 months up to a year and plus. There's elements of this that are somewhat commercial, which is what the property is already zoned. There'll be consulting that'll be going on, and there'll be addiction recovery services that will be going on there. So that has an element of being commercial. And then these individuals in the main building will be taking common meals. So there's an element of a group home. So it is a unique type of operation of which the zoning regulations do not currently exist. The property, as you probably are familiar with, was formerly occupied by Lowe's Concrete for many, many years. That involved at one time manufacturing and then the production of concrete, and then it became a retail operation until it was recently sold by the Glasscock family about a year ago. The property itself only adjoins, besides Clayton Watkins Construction, only adjoins really two other property owners as far as direct abutment. That is a small house on the, what would be the north end of the property. That property has a 50-foot buffer between it and any improvements that we're making. And then the other neighbor is the P&L Railroad. The cost of this production is estimated to be $9.6 million. All of that money has been accumulated by charitable contributions. And currently we have commitments for operating costs for 15 years to the amount of a little over $700,000 per year to support the operations of this program. There are no costs to the participants that will be part of this, except perhaps they'll be charged from rent in the event that they're working. And there's also no income limits. Anybody, regardless, rich or poor, will be able to come and receive the benefits. And this facility is for the families of Grayson County. This is Grayson County money going into it. We want to use it for the families of Grayson County. We're not taking any development money or any supporting money from any other source that would mandate us to serve anyone other than the residents and the families of Grayson County. The program that we operate is a peer-to-peer program. With your permission, we have, and in the course of these 5 projects, the first one that I developed was with a partner in Henderson, Kentucky, a man that's here with us tonight by the name of Dale Seitz. Dale Seitz, who has been in recovery himself, is one of the premier individuals that have supported addiction services, and he spent his lifetime. He ran into this problem in his youth, and he spent his lifetime trying to help this population. He is nationally known in his intervention work to sit down with individuals and convince them that they need to go into addiction or treatment. He's been very, very successful in that. He's operated the Warren Project in Henderson. It's been open for about 17 years, and he's also operated the MARC program in Bowling Green, Kentucky for the last 8 years. These programs are well known, and they're some of the best long-term addiction recovery facilities that this state has. And his organization, the Center for Addiction Recovery of Henderson, of which I sit on that board, will be undertaking the programmatic aspect of this development. And if I could, I would like to have him come and explain the programmatic aspect.
Are you finished with your presentation?
Not entirely.
Okay. Can he speak after you've presented? I assume he'll be speaking in favor of?
I think so.
Okay. As soon as you finish, can we, I assume he'll be listed as someone who wants to speak on behalf of the application? Would that be okay?
Can I return after he's completed?
You'll get some rebuttal time. Will that be all right?
Okay, I can do that.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Dale, come forward, please.
Greetings, everybody. I can't wait to go back to Henderson. I've appeared before the like body there many, many times. I can't go back and wait to go back, tell them how much more professional we are, what a better looking group than served there. So look forward to that. They're all friends of mine. As Gary told you, and I don't want to be redundant, my struggle with alcoholism has been practically a lifetime, was a lifetime unfortunate endeavor up till 1987. And I made a living in banking and manufacturing and service work, but my addiction grew to a point where I had to do something to abate that. So I went to rehab in 1987, came back, and in addition to continuing the pursuit of making a living and raising a family, wanted what I wanted to do more than anything else. I think out of gratitude more than anything for my new life and my fortunate recovery and my ability to live out my life. I wanted to help others who suffer from our disorder. So what we've seen over the years is a dramatic increase in the intensity of it. And so anyway, in 2017, Recovery Kentucky was formed. And Gary was involved in the inception. Tracy Glasscock, who we dearly love as well, was involved in that process, and I got to know Gary and Tracy early on. And so a group met in Henderson and to encourage the development of that. And a friend of mine, a physician, said to me, if you'll chair a board, I'll donate the land. And I thought, well, it'd be a passive thing, and I can chair the board and go ahead and do what else I'm doing. Didn't quite work out that way. So anyway, the doctor contributed the land. Gary, we formed the company, the nonprofit. Gary and his company commenced construction. My wife, Margaret Ann, who is here, worked every day, as some of you all know, to make sure it was exactly what should be built insofar as the accommodations and the aesthetics and all those things that would make women in unfortunate circumstances, many of whom were incarcerated, many of whom were not, feel at home, feel good about themselves in an increasing way. Because what we've learned about addiction over the years, and I can testify from my own experience, most of us don't feel very good about ourselves. And we camouflage that with substance, and the process of feeling good about ourselves sufficiently where we do not have to numb ourselves comes from rehabilitation, which is fundamentally education. So the concept of Recovery Kentucky was established or commenced in 2007. And once again, I agreed to what I thought would be a passive role, and it became much more than that. So I remained in banking for a number of years. I'd been in banking and textile manufacturing and service, textile service work throughout my lifetime to make a living doing that. And I thought, once again, it'd be passive, turned into much more. So I had never met more giving, more responsible, more people who were more properly directed than Gary Watkins and his organization. So we engaged with them. The first building was built, and so then later, I remember saying to Gary, called him one day and said, we can get the property next door if we can build apartments, because our women don't want to go back to their environment. Many of them want to stay in this community, and he was all in for that, he and his organization. And so it culminated in the case of the Henderson operation in the Warm Center, which is about a 100 unit capacity recovery center, and now Warm Residence is 33 units, and later Warm Residence 2 is 33 more units, so that's all on a campus there. So people come there from all walks of life. About 35% of them come through the correctional system, the rest of them walk in, or done through interventions with friends, family, ministers, whatever. So anyway, we have roughly, I think we have about 95 in Henderson today. Recently, a church in Henderson, we had the whole concept and idea of rehabilitation has grown to a point in Henderson that a church came to us and said, we're ceasing operation. And how would you feel if we donated our property and you create something there? Well, we had envisioned a recovery club for a number of years and a place where our women could trudge and have classes. So recently a church in Henderson downtown contributed their property, and now that's the Recovery Club of Henderson, which is a part of the Warm organization. I think one of the most beautiful things that I can say, in addition to our immaculate relationship with some of the finest people I've ever known in my life, and that is the Walbuck family, is that the city and community and county of Henderson has supported us from day one. There has never been, that I know about, an objection other than one time a lady had to stand too long in a bus line and at a shopping center. But other than that, the community has just poured out love, poured out generosity, and been so grateful for being able to see people better their lives. There's a car dealer there, for example, called me 10, 15, 12 years ago. Said, I want to give you a car every year that you can raffle and give your women who complete the course. He's given us 17 vehicles. There is no entity, whether it be the medical community, the faith community, whatever community in Henderson, Kentucky, that can support the endeavor of the Center for Addiction Recovery is done without hesitation. So I stand before you respectfully with just amazement that Gary has done this. First of all, I shouldn't be surprised because I know I know the kind of people Gary and the Walbuck family represent. I know how giving they've been to us. I know their intense and sacred view of addiction today and the remnants of the unfortunate disease, and knowing something has to be done, and it has to be done now. Once again, there's never been an issue. I can't imagine there being a downside of any kind in Leitchfield and Grayson County to your acceptance or the community's acceptance of this offer to create what we consider a wonderful development. So happy to be with you. I'd be happy to answer your questions if this is the time to do that.
Questions will be later.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you. Gary?
He said some nice things about me. I'll repeat that and continue on with a couple other points, if I may. The program, again, will be operated by Dale's group. We'll have a local advisory board to work with them. Perhaps down the road, when the correct amount of expertise and experience has been gained, could take over the daily operations of that. But initially, that will be our great partners from the Center for Addiction Recovery of Henderson. This is a peer-to-peer model that they undertake. There's a lot of medical assistance, treatment out there, but this is principally a peer-to-peer social model. Medical assistance, they'll change the chemical content of your blood, but you need something that'll change your heart and your mind. This long term, there is, when you pick up and you see all the ads that's on the television, almost without exception, all of those are short-term programs. Most of them are 30-day programs where they come in, they're out in 30 days, and then they repeat and are back in the front door. This program has got a 78% of the graduates are still sober after 12 months, and that is astounding in the recovery business. Again, this is for the families of Grayson County. This is the right project. This is the long-term residential facility. It has proven results. It will save lives and it will save families. It will reduce crime. Many are being let out of released because there is no place for them to go to seek long-term recovery. It will create employees. About every business in this community is looking for people to work. It will create employees by these individuals changing their lives and be able to become part of a productive workforce. It's got the right people. The Center for Addiction Recovery at Henderson, Dale Sykes, and his group are the right people to run the program. We've got Robert McKenzie, who you know, who's here in Leitchfield. He's got the store. And he's also remodeling the old hotel into a Airbnb and a restaurant. Robert is, many of you probably may not know Robert, who's sitting back there with his hands raised there by his wife. Robert was part of the top management of Leggett and Platt International, not here in Leitchfield, a Fortune 500 company. And he has just recently retired from that, and he wants to run this facility. He's already been in training down in Bowling Green to learn the ins and outs of operating the program. This community is very fortunate to have him. And this program has the support of the local officials. I've talked to the mayor, I've talked to the county judge, law enforcement. They're in favor of this program and this facility. It's at the right place. The site is zoned commercial, but the project is mostly residential, which is considered a less invasive zoning. The area where it's located has been in a state of decline and will be a major facelift for the area. And this is the right time. Last year, there were 2,000 drug overdose deaths in Kentucky last year. Plus, all those deaths due to drugs, by suicide, by accidents, and chronic health decline. Drugs are devastating our community. And those individuals out there, and I've been fortunate in my life, but except by the grace of God, I could have been one of them. And how we got here, and how this has all come about, is a lot of people want to come. I've had a lot of people from out of state want to come and do tours of this facility because it's well known even on the national level. And Dale, as I said, he says too many nice things about me. And he was taking the group on a tour, and I was with them. And the individuals who are there, they have to work in the facility. They keep it up. They keep it shine. They prepare the meals. They actually work there. And I guess it's been about 12 years ago. And he was taking me around, and he was introduced me, went back to the kitchen. There was a lady there that was preparing the meals for the day. And Dale gives me too much credit. He introduced me to the young lady, and he said, "This is Mr. Watkins." He said, "He's the one responsible for this facility being here." And she teared up. And she said, "I want to thank you, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be alive." And we won't be able to save them all, but we'll be able to save some. And we've got a person with us tonight who's asked to speak, and if it's okay, I'd like for her to come up. And that concludes my remarks, Mr. Chairman, unless anyone has questions. But one of our participants in the program currently at Mark has agreed to come and speak. She's a local person, and she's brave to be able to come in before this group and to
What
talk.
is the name?
Elizabeth Glasgow.
Elizabeth. Okay, I'm about to ask, thank you, Gary, for your testimony. If you're here to speak on behalf in favor of this application, would you please raise your right hand? Okay. Elizabeth, please come forward.
I'm sorry, this is a very emotional thing for me. My name is Elizabeth Glasscock. I am from here in Grayson County. Some of you all may know me or my family. I personally have struggled with addiction for years. I have been to several short-term facilities, none of which were successful for me. They may have planted that seed, but in my opinion, they are just long enough to detox and to get that substance out of the system. I am currently at a long-term facility, Warm, in Henderson, Kentucky. And I'm doing very well in my recovery there. It has saved my life, truly. I have been there a little over 9 months now, and I have accomplished many things. I have gotten visitation back with my niece and nephew, thanks to that place. I have received my driver's license back. And I just am regaining my life little by little, step by step. This place has given me the tools to stay sober, and through my journey in recovery, I am learning more about myself and what I am capable of doing in my life. And I just want to say that I'm for this, and this program really does work. I am living proof. I finally feel like I'm getting my life back. And I just want to thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Is there anyone else here tonight that's been sworn in that it has testimony in favor of the application? Okay. All right. If you're here to speak in opposition to the application, would you please raise your right hand? I only see one hand up. Joanne? Joanne Glasscock, correct? Yes. Please come forward to the podium.
I hate to follow Elizabeth. We got a letter from the Planning Commission, my problem is, and I called Tyler and left a message to call us. Tom called Tyler 2 or 3 times because we wanted to know where they were going to place this facility, and I'm thrilled to death with the facility. But we never got a return call. So, you know, I wouldn't be here tonight if we would have been told where it is. My problem is I don't know where the facility, and that is never quite that street. I don't know if they can reroute it or what. I've had 2 nervous breakdowns, not due to drugs, but I know how you need quiet and peace and trees and everything. So I know Gary, he will work miracles over there. I have no doubt with that. I think we've seen Elizabeth get to one point and then go back. And this is the first time I have seen her on a healing path. And let's hope it stays that way. But, you know, we don't know. I have a home next door to where they're building the facility. And Tom and I had decided that when we sell the farm, we were going to remodel the house and live there. If, you know, we're getting old, we may not have that option. But my problem is people need to return calls when you want a question answered from your commission, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. That microphone, if you push that back up on the top, if you may.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
push it
thing-
forward. There you go. It's out of balance.
Y'all not used to.
All right, thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Sir, you had testimony against the application? Yes. Would you come forward, please? State your name for the record.
Justin Small.
Justin, your testimony, please.
Yeah, so I own some property at 300 Dixie, which is in that area. I would say my biggest concern is the area. I worry about property value, how it'll affect that. I'm originally from Indiana. I moved to Kentucky and chose Leitchfield to start a business and purchase some property from the Glasscocks at 300 Dixie. And my concern is long-term, if there are any issues down the road, the property owners in the area are gonna have to, deal with the consequences if there's something that doesn't turn out well, right? So my concern is that, if this is to go forward, that, the committee does their due diligence as far as understanding both sides of the story and the possible negative effects to current property owners.
Okay.
That's really all I have. Thanks.
All right, very good. Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else here with testimony to speak in opposition to the application? You want anything to rebut in that regard? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that.
Wes Whitmore with the motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tim Bocock. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, the public hearing is closed at 6:48. Okay. Just as a reminder, before any amendment is granted, the Planning Commission must find that the map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan, or in the absence of such finding, that one or more of the following apply, and that's that the existing zoning classification given to the property is inappropriate, and that the proposed zoning classification is appropriate, or that there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature within the area involved, which are not anticipated at the time of the adopted comprehensive plan, and which have substantially altered the basic character of the area. Tyler, do you have a staff recommendation?
I do. So the reason for the request, obviously, we didn't have a readily available zone for the particular type of facility that was going in. So that's why the exclusive use zoning was requested. So the exclusive use zoning would permit that sort of facility. So the commercial is already the zone for one of the pieces of property. The other piece is zoned as neighborhood business. So both properties are already commercialized. And the increase in drug use and studies over past years, to me, have changed the social nature, and therefore a great need for a recovery center is needed here in Leitchfield. And so I would recommend for the zone change to be granted.
All right, thank you. All right, questions, discussion among the commissioners? Now's your opportunity to ask questions of anyone who offered testimony, or staff, or council.
I have a question.
All right, Kendall has a question.
I'm not, in looking at the application, it doesn't, to me, clearly define the areas we're involved. It just says 306 Marion. There is a plat in the back which shows the parcels, I think, that actually is being requested, which, let me find that survey plat back here that's, here it is, that has the two parcels, and it appears it's 1-1 parcel and 2-2. But the deed that follows that actually has, I think, the entire tract of land. And I may be missing something, but I don't see in the application exactly what we're proposing to rezone, or any description of it, other than in the narrative, it does mention tract 1-1 of 2.44 and tract 2-2 consisting of 8.3, but I don't see that anywhere in the application.
So the map numbers,
That's
you don't
the
think
entire property.
do a good enough job? That's the entire property?
Yeah, so something to define exactly where we're dividing it and where the zoning
Kendall, that is a part of the application process. By virtue of this exclusive use, you have to file the plan, and the plan is attached to it, the actual plan itself.
Because this is part of the application?
No, that is part of the application, all of that
He's got
is.
the map, he's got a survey map in here.
And that's the
which
reason
defines
it's a little
those two
bit,
parcels.
it's a little bit confusing. This is the plat itself, and it's attached to it, the preliminary plat, and that's what has to be done.
I understand what he's requesting, but is it specifically,
It's the same way.
Yeah, it's set forth in the narrative,
it, yeah, it's in the narrative.
and that's
Yeah.
part of the application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plus, I assume the plan has to be ratified by staff, yes?
What we did is we met with Mr. Watkins, Tyler and I did, and we actually revised this so that there would be the adequate protection for the lot over there, the 50 foot, because of course the setbacks will be with regard to this. And so we also required a lower amount of road, a greater amount of road frontage along the track that joins Dixie Avenue in order to meet that requirement. And so these were things that we did, and we also, we tweaked all these things to get a buffer zone as much as we could, is the way Tyler and I worked on it. And so these are the two tracks.
Okay.
My only question was exactly if that was in the application, if that stands for,
Yeah, that is-
if that's clear enough to
Right, that's-
understand it, yeah.
That's a part
For
of the
everybody to
application,
understand.
the way we treated it.
Yes. Well, I guess that's what I meant. This preliminary plat being there is in the record, and even though it's preliminary, the plan had to be signed off on, and then the final will have to be signed off
Put
on.
it in the narrative.
So it would, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Satisfied with that? Any other, Wes?
Yeah, I've got a question for Gary or Dale. So you mentioned residents, you mentioned the participants were going to be residents, would benefit residents of Grayson County. And then Elizabeth spoke, and I know she's from Grayson County and in Henderson. Will outside residents be welcome to the Grayson County housing? No.
Please.
Wes, as we have designed this, the eligible people will be for permanent residents of Grayson County and their lineal or horizontal relation, brother, sister, mother, father, son or daughter, grandchild, granddaughter, or their spouses.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Good.
I've got one more. And most of my family lives in Henderson, and some have been affected by it. They've all had absolutely wonderful things to say about it. Tyler, would you want to clear that phone call thing up?
Talking about for Ms. Glasscock?
Yes.
I returned a phone call on January 3rd and didn't get an answer. I was out of the office from December, I think 23rd was my last day at work, and I was out until January 3rd, and I returned a phone call that day. I had a list of phone calls when I got back, but I didn't receive an answer when I did call.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you're talking about my phone call.
Yes.
I have an answering machine.
It didn't come through as an answering machine, but I
Well,
did
you
call.
have to let it ring a number of times because Tom and I are older and trying to get to the phone.
Yep. I
So-
let it ring until it shut itself off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I did try to call because I was glad to see Kendall could not figure out where it was. And we've owned the property, and I still don't know where it's at, Kendall. So I know you did the survey of it. So you can show me where it's at, because Tom and I've not been able to figure out where, and that's what I wanted Tyler to show us,
Well,
okay?
he has that map, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can show you right now.
That's what we
And
were
it's-
wanting.
It's part of the application, which is public record, so we can get you a copy of that, so
Okay.
you'll know exactly
All
where it is.
right, thank you.
Thank you. Tim?
Mark, just for the sake of being thorough, I'd like to hear Dave's legal opinion on this matter, for the record.
Well, it fits within it fits within the exclusive use definition. This is one of the reasons we established this zone for these particular type things, because there are things which will come up which are not covered with this old zoning ordinance, as we all know. And there are new things that people have never even heard of at the time this ordinance was adopted. And so many of the areas around are doing exactly the same thing with regard to something like this that fits in this area. And so that was, it certainly does fit within the
Thank you,
criteria
Dave.
10.
Appreciate it.
So on that point, I've been at this for the better part of 25 years, I guess, and when I first heard of EX1, I immediately objected to it in principle because it seemed like it was a workaround when something didn't fit exactly like you wanted, which goes against the planning process by its very nature. But the longer that I have looked at it and understood it, it seems innovative and the ability to adapt to changing dynamics, and these are changing dynamics. Now, from a legal description as well and the use of it, if one day when there's no more addiction, when addiction is solved completely, and this facility needed to be repurposed, does it have to come back through the application process to do something else?
Yes, it does.
Okay,
It can only be used for what's the original purpose.
that's right.
Kind of like the church.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll have to be rezoned
Yes, yes, okay.
to something that fits it.
Right. Well, and that was one of the original concerns of EX1 is you're sort of giving a blank check in the future to, it can turn into a free-for-all. But if the city is protected in the sense that we say that it's for an addiction recovery center, and it will be until it's not, and then the city has to sign off on it being something else, then I think the commission can be confident moving forward.
Well, I might add a little to that location. I spent about 16 years over there growing up, you know, and there really hasn't been any changes, you know. It's really, of course, when I was growing up, people always called it the rough side of town, you know. You don't want to go over there. And I've worked for Joanne's mom probably when I was 10, 11 years old. And I had the opportunity to go down and visit this facility in Henderson's with April, invited me to go down, and I really couldn't say enough about it. It's just so tremendous, you know. And Joanne spoke earlier about Elizabeth, you know, in and out. I had a brother that I lost back in 2011, you know, had a lot of problems. And it don't take but one time to turn them down, and they might really go off the deep end. I wished I had been there to help him from going off the edge. So I would like to say to Elizabeth tonight, just keep on fighting. And as Gary and them said, if you're just to help just a few, I think we've done a great deal, you know. So my basic opinion would be on, I'm very favorable of it. I couldn't say enough about Dale and the facilities that he's done and that they have down there. It's just tremendous, you know. And it's, to me, it's a perfect location for Leitchfield, and we've got one of the city councilmen here tonight that will verify that we've got people here in Leitchfield that's actually sleeping in dumpsters right now, you know. And it's a shame. It really is. And I commend Gary for wanting to get this, and I think it'll be a big plus to Leitchfield. I really do.
So my professional interviewing skills taught me to ask questions that you think others would ask. So someone might want to know the answer, and it's for Dale from a programmatic standpoint. Addiction is broad. Is it specifically drug addiction, or programmatically are other types of addictions part of your program? Drugs and alcohol. Okay, very good. Anyone have any other questions?
I'm curious, just to get more familiar, excuse me, with exclusive use zones, and maybe you can help me with this, but item 5, it says after filing of the final development plan, the owner developer of the property approved for exclusive use shall have 3 years to develop the property. Do you see an issue with meeting that, or, because this is a huge undertaking, so I just wanted to reiterate that.
We understand it's a huge undertaking. We've been
Okay,
I've just talked to the architect today, they should have the final revisions
okay,
of the plans here in the next 30 days. We should be out there working by the summer.
okay, nice. And then you mentioned something about the statistics on a state level, but you did not mention about the statistics on a county level. Jessica, can you tell us about that, or?
If I had known you were gonna ask, I don't have those numbers right in front of me, but I mean, we can all see the articles on, that come on social media every day from Cable 5 and different places that we have an issue with drugs in this community. I can't say enough about how much good this could bring to Grayson County, and just on behalf of the city as well, I took the time to call Dallas and Henderson and talk to the sheriff as well as the city manager. Both of those folks had nothing but great things to say about the Fun Center. The number of community service hours that these residents are providing to that city on an annual basis is unbelievable. I
Okay.
can only imagine what will happen in Litchfield if we embrace this.
Okay, I appreciate it, because when we discuss things like that, we tend to be more generalized on a broader reach, but it's nice to reiterate how important something like this is on a local level.
Okay, as we get into deliberations, I want to remind us that we try and often talk in terms of 25 and 50 years into the future, because the things we do today have impact in going forward. Another thing from a redevelopment of that area, if you just look at that corridor of the city, whether it's a recent change that we ratified on the relocation of the supermarket, and just this being redeveloped, there will be a daisy chain effect out of something like this in that area, that if it doesn't happen in that area now, then it's probably going to continue to look very similar to what it does now. So, all right, anyone want to formulate a motion for or against?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion based upon the recommendation of staff and council that the existing zoning classification given to the property is inappropriate, and that the proposed zoning classification is appropriate.
I'll second that.
Tim Bocock with the motion, Wes Whitmore with a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you all. This is a recommendation to the Litchfield City Council, which way they will entertain. And if they accept our recommendation, they will have a second reading 2 weeks from Tuesday. Would be the 2 weeks later on a Monday that they would have that. So it'll be our recommendation to them that they accept the map amendment. So everybody's welcome to stay. We've got a little bit of regular business to go from here. You're free to leave, free to stay, whatever you feel like. Thanks, everybody, for your participation. April, you're welcome to come back in. All right, we're continuing on with our agenda as soon as April gets back. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
All right, you have the zoning text amendment for building heights in front of you as presented by Dave.
Hey, maybe we should wait just a minute.
Why don't you take a minute and review them while the
Okay. Oh, good.
So do we need to schedule a public hearing?
Okay.
So nothing in residential was changed.
I couldn't get it to pull up, so I was.
Does he actually discuss this, or do we? As a, yeah, if we have any objections.
Okay.
So I guess I need a motion to make the recommendation, or the motion to approve staff to advertise the revised Section 2.11 of the zoning ordinance for, she's got it on the recording, sure. You okay with what you see here, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Georgia, look okay to you?
Yeah, he said, yeah, to accept the recommendation.
Okay, I'm looking for a recommendation for staff to advertise the changes as presented on the height aspects of the ordinance for review next month.
I'll make that recommendation.
All right, Kendall makes the motion for
second.
Tyler to advertise these changes,
Okay, thank
and
you.
we'll address them in February.
And I'll second, if you need that.
I've got a second. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. Any opposed? I don't think so. All right. Is there any new business that I'm unaware of? Anybody? All right. Do I have a motion we adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
All right. Kendall makes the motion to adjourn. Wes Whitmore, the second. All in favor, say aye. All right. We are adjourned